Hi, and welcome to Amuck Studios. For 2025, I will be using an actual camera. So I should be able to get much closer, detailed shots of what I'm working on. It's going to take me a little bit. I'm having some troubles figuring out my lighting with the camera. Hopefully it won't take me but a video or two to figure that out. I'm going to remake the Making a Curved Bezel video and give a little more close-up detail of the actual soldering part that I didn't cover in the first video. So if you've watched that one and then watched this, I'd love some feedback, or if this is the first time you're watching Making a Curved Bezel, you might take a look at both videos and let me know if the camera is making a good difference in the detail shots. So let's get started. I'm going to brush a little bit of flux onto the seam. And then I'm just going to place a little chip of hard solder underneath it. That way when I heat it, I will pull the solder up through the join. I've got my bezel soldered, and let's see, let me put it on something flat. It's about twice the height of my stone, and that's way more than necessary, but I'd rather have it too high than too short. Once we get the correct curve sanded into it, then we can bring the bezel down as needed. But better to have too tall than too short, for sure. I have my mandrel that I formed the cuff on, and I like to put it back onto the mandrel and mark where the stone is going to be sitting on there. We can just get a little bit of tape. I'm just going to use a little bit of painter's tape, something that's not terribly sticky, that I can pull back up off of my mandrel easily. So now I know where the curve is that I want to match. I'm putting a little piece of double stick tape on the back side of my sandpaper just to help keep it on the mandrel. But I'm also going to add some more tape to the side. Hopefully that'll stay still. And this will take a while. It is not a fast process. You just want to take your time. You can start to see the curve. And just like when you're sanding a bezel flat, you can tell when you've hit all the surfaces. I can see that I haven't really touched this side over here yet. Make sure you get it right back on there. Fit that curve. And another test that you can do is put a Sharpie mark all around your bezel. So that you know when you've sanded around the entire thing. And the edges are totally touching the curve. Kind of hard to hold that in place. You just want to kind of keep checking and see if you've got a nice tight fit. Hold it up and see if you can see any light through it. Oh, when I do that, I can definitely see light right through the center. So my two ends are still a little bit high. And then you could even put a little sandpaper just on your bracelet. Because this might be a tad different than the mandrel. And you can do a finer sand. pretty good. Just do a little bit more with that fine sandpaper, just directly on the cuff. Just just made that bezel fit with. Alright, I think we're close enough that I can take it over to the solder bench now and set that up. Alright, I've got this wedged between two pieces of charcoal so that the curved area is straight up and down. And I'm going to brush it with some flux. And the bezel. And then carefully try to set this up. And you'll probably have to mess around with it a little bit. It's probably going to set in one particular direction. You know, that curve won't be exactly the same. You'll see it when you set it on there, which way it sets best. Okay, I think we've got it pretty good there. Back it up a little bit. Okay. And I'm just going to warm that up a little bit so that the flux melts a bit. So now that the flux is dried and not moving, because I didn't want to put my solder there and then have that flux bubble up and the solder chips move. Now I can place some medium solder, or if this is your last solder on your piece, you could just use easy. Let's do that actually. I'm just going to cut a few chips. Oops. Or if you like to actually stick solder and hold it, you could do that. So I'm just going to drop a couple of these chips inside. And then I will try and push them right to the inside edge of there. And I'll snap a still shot actually, and then you can see. was getting a little bit too dirty. I stopped to clean it up, and then I'll reflux it and get the rest of the solder to flow. My normal gas tank is out, so I'm using that little butane torch, so it's taken longer than it really should. We've got solder, and I gave it a quick little cleanup. I really don't like using brass when I'm soldering. I prefer to use it for cold connections, but I have a lot of brass and copper right now, so it will work for a demo. We got a good solder join. Took a little bit longer because I was using the little butane, but it can be done. And so now I just need to bring down the bezel height a little bit because I did make it way bigger. Let's see. I need to bring that down a little bit. And sometimes if you have a real severe curve, you know, your stone's not going to set flat. It'll want to tip. And a lot of times, well, I've taken apart old jewelry and they've used like sawdust or something to level things out. But a lot of times I will just recycle little polishing pads that I have and put that in there for a little cushion and level. Let's see if I can find one. So like these little foamy polishing pads, once I've used them and it's just basically trash, it makes a good little buffer to put inside something as a cushion and to level it out. And this is probably all I'm going to need. I might not even need one actually with this because it's not too harsh of a curve. But I am going to knock this down a little bit. So I'm still way high. But if you liked that height, then you could just put some, like I'll save old credit cards or gift cards, and you can cut little bits of that plastic and set inside to make a riser. I'm going to keep sanding this down a little bit more. Get closer. And that does feel like it's set pretty level. It's a real slight curve on this one. Let's see if I just put a little padding under there. So I did a little cleanup, and you can see we got a nice clean solder join there. That light a bit. And then just set your stone like normal. Went ahead and finished and set the stone. I hope that was helpful and maybe a little bit better view than the first version of making a curved bezel. Again, I think it's going to take me a couple of videos to really get the lighting and this new camera figured out. I thank you for watching. See you next time.